Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Dan the Wolfman from my MMA days, so look at all my playlists: MMA, catch wrestling, jiu-jitsu, karate, systema, 52 blocks, all the cool stuff. Get combatants in street jiu-jitsu on BJJ Fanatics. Learn how to defend yourself, and I keep concealed carry in mind. So I'm going to do another brief video on 9mm grain weight. Does it matter? I have all three of Blazer brass. I didn't bring the 147 box. 115 grain, you see it listed there. 124 grain, meaning heavier. 147 grain, meaning the heaviest. That one is a flat tip, as you can see there. A little bit longer overall length as well. So, does it really matter? In training, probably not, unless you're going to carry with 147 grain ammo. If you're going to carry with 147, which I only personally like in 4-inch or longer barrels, and HST is the exception of being good, maybe Winchester white box, stuff like that. Heavy for caliber, duty size. And it's more expensive to train with, so don't carry with 147 if you don't train with 147, because the recoil impulse is noticeable when you're doing stuff. So we'll do a little bit of accuracy at 8 yards, because I'm using this itty-bitty tiny backup gun, Ruger Max 9, with the flat base, so I'm pinky dangling. And it's a big fiber optic night sight. It's not the most precise. I'm just going to go to 8 yards. I took two warm-up rounds of each at 10, so I'm going to go at 8 just so we can see if there's any differences. Then, if the video is not too long, I plan to give you a recoil control view of the pistol doing a fast 5 at 7 yards, which is one of the techniques I like to do. I would say in general, unless you're a competitor, most people just buy 115 or 124 grain, whatever is the cheapest. Now, the cheapest stuff usually isn't the hottest stuff, so occasionally buy hotter ammo that's going to recoil more like your defensive carry ammo. Which the best in the world is 124 plus B HST in my mind. Punch is the best big box store, cheap 20-round box stuff, things like that, okay? So, I typically will be carrying with 124 grain, or maybe 9B PLE, something like that. Okay, so here we go, just 3 of each at 8 yards. Keep in mind, this is not the most accurate pistol. I'm pinky dangling, and it's wider than the front and the shoot. See. Left, not happy about that. Okay, that was 115, now 124 grain in the top right. Trigger press my, well, no, those last two were in there. The first one had a bit more pop on it. There's maybe a little bit more muzzle rise with the 124 grain. I think muzzle energy wise, the 115 is actually a little bit stronger in the Blazer. So all of these are Blazer brass to make things fair. The 124 had a little more lift from the heavier grain weight. Okay. Now 147 mid left on the shoot and see. Now, I did another video and I said, well, the 147 seemed like longer, less recoil, because the recoil impulse, it's not as high of a spike, okay, because of slide velocity. So it's not as high as a spike. It's more like a bell curve a little bit. But in this little micro, I'd used a bigger pistol in the video I did previously on this subject. I didn't feel like it was less. So you guys let me know with your experience. Let's check out the results, and then we'll do our fast fives and give you a recoil view of the pistol. And keep in mind, definitely not my most accurate pistol. I'm not the most accurate with it. I'm just doing backup gun, weak side only stuff today, because I train realistically. So, decent, bad trigger press, 115. 124 grain, two were, first one there, that's the one that felt snappy. And then these two were dead in there. Pretty darn good. And with the 147, is it just me, or is it the ammo? Maybe slightly more accurate. Also is the flat med plate. What do I mean by that? You absolutely do not use FMJ for self-defense. I repeat that, you do not use FMJ for self-defense or ball ammo. In fact, some of it's not really FMJ, but people call it that. That's rounded, pushes tissue out of the way. That's flat. This does do 15 to 30% more damage, because the front is what touches the tissue. That's still not great on humans. You want a jacketed hollow point that expands, because its radius squared through the entire wound path does a heck of a lot more damage, like 4 to 6.5 times more damage even than this. However, if you were talking animal defense, the flat met plate will penetrate in a straight line deeper. Look at my buddy Gun Sam for tests on things like that. This isn't that hot, so I wouldn't say bear defense, but maybe hiking, something like that. You would want a hotter flat met plate, hard bullet or hard cast, something like that. But just to be aware. Now, I think I've had jams in this pistol before with the longer bullet because it's it doesn't like a longer. This is longer and it's functioning. So this particular micro pistol, micros are not the same as full sizes, might be a little more subject to feeding issues with longer overall length, or because it's a little flatter hitting that feed ramp if it doesn't have a good feed ramp. So these are all things you're going to have to test out. Again, I would really 147 is typically more expensive. Gamers train with it because they can buy low recoil 147. Me, I like to train with the hottest, like 124 I can get typically. All right, we're pasted up. These are 8-inch shooting C's. You see those circles? That's a good 8-inch style IDPA upper thoracic cavity. That's where you need them, and you really need them in the heart and spine for self-defense purposes. Now, this gun's going to be harder to recoil control because my pinky's dangling. I didn't bring the longer magazine today because I'm particularly doing pocket draws. But let's put this back. Let's just go to 5 yards and see if I, even at 6, some are going to be off, I think. Let's go back to 5 yards. I typically do this technique at 7. All right, first up with this tiny little micro 9, because I thought it would show you more recoil. My previous video was with the HK that can handle whatever. I thought you might be able to see some differences. So let me try and get the angle right here for you. Okay, so I'm going to draw, which I don't carry this gun appendix, but I'm going to draw appendix. My Tolster holster, code Dan the Wolfman, Tolster holster, targets online, access sights, access night sights, put them on your pistol, targets online, train realistically, Tolster holster. I got videos going all over those. Use my name. Okay, so first up, 115 grain. Here we go. And I was aiming far to the left. That is bad on me. That is my first run of the day. All right, slow draw for me. First one of the day. This holster is a little sticky. Don't use it. Okay, so anyway, about 24 splits. It didn't pick up one of them. So one of them was faster than 25 splits. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the same hole, 5. So I kept them all on the IDPA in the upper thoracic. Those would have been great had they been here, which would have been someone's spine. CNS, that's how you shut somebody down. So my draw was a little off when I first came in and I let them rip, but you were able to see the recoil. Let's go to 124 grain next, see if you can notice any differences. All right, here we go. Seems like I was a little slower getting back on target. Faster draw to first shot, 162. 28 split, 22 split, 24 split, 24 split. Not bad with a itty bitty tiny micro 9. And I'm much better if I don't have my pinky dangling, if I have the extended magazine on any pistol like this, or a base plate, you know, pinky extender. So that's not bad. Let's check the hits. Okay, this one's interesting even for me. 1, 2, and 3 clover-leafed. 3 clover-leafed right there. So technically a better run with the 124 because one's a bullseye, 3 are there in the 9, and then that one barely, but in there on the 8-inch pie. So that would be the lung. This is heart and spine. That's lung, maybe heart, all good stuff. That's strange that I was able to do that when I don't shoot this pistol as often as I should. All right, 147 grain now, and I don't shoot 147 very often. The recoil impulse is a little bit different. Interesting, it happened on camera after I talked about it. This little micro 9's been pretty reliable. It's getting maybe a little old, but it seems to be an overall length issue. And these rounds I noticed, and we did a picture, it was probably the profile or thumbnail. You can see the 147 is a little longer, and it did what we talked about. It literally stuck there on the feed ramp. That doesn't mean that 147s are bad. It means that micro pistols, micro 9s, are really smaller than they're supposed to be, right? So they're going to be more sensitive to ammo, more sensitive to limb bursting and a GGU, things like that. You want hot ammo typically to run the slide. That's why even if the recoil's worse control, a lot of guys say use plus P because, or at least a hot round like punch, because it's going to cycle the slide. Pretty important stuff to know. Let me reload and try this again. All right, and down there I got one shot on target and one low left. That's not good. Maybe me pushing, but I'm not used to the recoil impulse. It's a little slower. That's what I'm talking about. So don't carry 147 defensive rounds if you don't train with 147, guys. Okay, 154 to first shot, 25 split, 26 split. That's not bad. Let's try this again. I'm glad I brought a couple extra. Let's see. One in a battery, okay. Two in a jam. It always jams on the third one. Now I'm starting to wonder if this magazine that stays loaded all the time, even though they say that doesn't do it, it's about the cycles on a magazine spring. You vet your ammo, you would always vet your carry hollow points. Carry hollow points. You would always vet about 15 to 30 year carry hollow points, or 3 of 5 different kinds at the minimum. And someone else was shooting, so I didn't get it. But it looks like 159 the first shot and 24 split. But reliability is the most important name of the game. So this isn't any bad on Blazer. Had I been using the Blazer 147 in anything but this microdyne, I doubt we would have any feed issues. However, 1.2 and 1.2. I typically have better skill in that. Here's with the 115, it should be here, but look, all that nice linear stringing you want on some of these spine. With the 124, you can kind of tell which I usually train with. Here, 3 touching cluster and 5. So for me, the 124, the 115 doesn't make that much of a difference. I typically train with a bit hotter 115 or 124 grain. Carry it with the 124. Let me know if you could tell a difference in the recoil impulse. In the past, I was able to tell the 147. I think by my results, we see that I'm already hamming the trigger before I do whatever I do, which might be dipping or muscling a bit, and that's okay if you can perform that way. But the 147s, it's this longer peak instead of like this. And I'm used to snap right back down with, you know, hotter 124 grain ammo. So I'm not saying what to train with. As long as it's 115, 124, and you carry with 115, 124, I think you're okay. I do, however, think, especially in the smaller pistols, if you decide to carry it with 147, like I know a lot of people love 147 HSTs, and they feel like that's less recoil than like a 124 plus P HST, my choice. Then you gotta pay for the more expensive ammo typically to train with, or if you use cans, guys use 147. Make sure you train some with 147 as well. Anyway, please thumbs up, share, subscribe. Look at all my playlists. My Paul Harrell tribute playlist has a lot of cool pew-pew stuff, and probably my other video on grain weight. I hope this maybe helped you out, and you can learn a lot on my channel about grip and realistic drills. My 25-round realistic CCW test, 25-round realistic CCW test you all should be doing. Subscribe, and I'll catch you on the flip side.